Welcome to episode 2 of the Dance History Picture Show, a program that uses clips from old movies to illustrate the dances of a bygone age, generally, in my case, the first half of the 20th century. I am Walter Nelson, and the topic for today is the Charleston. I spent a lot of time trying to get my head around the Charleston, not so much about how to dance it. That part is relatively easy, if a bit tiring for an old man like me. What I've been trying to get my head around is where it fits into the 1920s dance scene. Who danced it? When did they dance it? How did they dance it? And what did it all mean in the great scheme of things? In my previous video on the jazzy foxtrot, I repeatedly observed that contrary to popular opinion, the Charleston was not the cornerstone dance of the Roaring Twenties. The foxtrot was. And in fact, the Charleston often integrated with the foxtrot, becoming something of a foxtrot variation. I'll be showing some examples of that in a moment. It's clear, though, that the Charleston wasn't just a dance, it was a social phenomenon. It represented something new and something subversive that was very much tied into the changing place of women in society, with, of course, the flappers in the vanguard. It didn't spring out of nowhere, of course. It had clear roots in African American step dance traditions, as well as dances like the cakewalk, and is also part of the spectrum of that includes American tap dance and all those many European step dance traditions. All topics for future programs. To keep this brief, I won't be delving into these precursors, nor into the successors like the black bottom and the later styles. Again, topics for future programs. I'm still focusing on the years when the Charleston was at its zenith. It can be traced to 1923 when it was introduced in the Broadway revue Running Wild, but it didn't really seem to hit its stride, as it were, until around 1925, with its peak in 1926 and starting to lose a bit of its luster, but not fade away entirely, never fade away entirely, around 1927. This program will have two rough sections. The first, I'll show examples of Charleston as performance and as couples dances, where it blends with the foxtrot. And I'll talk about the phenomenon of the solo Charleston, which is fundamentally a different thing. I will now show a selection of clips from films of the period. A few things I hope you'll get out of them is how the Charleston and foxtrot are often of a piece, and how many of the dancers are more about enthusiasm than technical proficiency. So, to begin. I will now be talking about the Charleston and, of course, showing the films that are very much the cornerstone of the way I like to present dance history. So, we'll start talking about Charleston as performance. And this was an interesting phenomenon. Frequently, usually, there's a very clear, bright line between the dancing of performers and the social dancing. Think about comparing a couple out for an evening at a nightclub to Fred and Ginger. And in most other forms of dancing, there is this very rigid, clear distinction between the exhibition dancer and the social dancer. But with Charleston, it had its roots, its birth as a stage performance dance. And it migrated from the stage into the ballroom and also from the stage into the floor shows of nightclubs, where it became very much the foundation of the dances of chorus girls at the time. But then you had this phenomenon, this feedback loop, where the chorus girls and the stage performers were learning new steps out there on the floor. And so you had each side was informing the other. Anyway, I will now show my first clip, which is a very early talkie. It is the Club Alabama Review. Note the clear overlap between tap dance style and the style of Charleston. And there's also a bit of cakewalk in there, but I haven't talked about the cakewalk. So there really were two Charlestons. There is the partner Charleston, and then there is the solo Charleston. And the partner Charleston, as I said, was very often more or less intertwined with the foxtrot. And then the solo Charleston was principally a female activity. And I'll be talking a bit more about that. But the next example is from a film called Nickel Hopper, where Mabel Normand is a taxi dancer, and and she is dealing with with being a taxi dancer in the age of the Charleston. But note the overlap of Charleston and foxtrot. The foxtrot being the partner version, where people are intertwined with one another, and then of course the Charleston. And of course the Charleston is very much defined by various forms of kicking. And next, as part of the Charleston Conquers the World section, we have Charleston in Paris from a joint Spanish-French production. Okay, and the Charleston plus Foxtrot mix continues, and also the Charleston Conquers the World continues. This is from a Colombian film from 1926. There's a big old party described as an orgy in the title card going on. People are dancing their jazzy 1920s style foxtrot, and then a wild couple breaks out towards the camera in among the tables and starts dancing their Charleston, and to be joined by a midget, because, you know, there we go. And this is also a wonderful example of what I was talking about earlier, where you see dancers with more enthusiasm than technical skill, which I think would probably match most dancers on a 1920s dance floor. So if you, for example, are inclined to undertake the Charleston, you should not feel somehow that your lack of proficiency in the more difficult portions of the Charleston should prevent you from getting up and dancing. And speaking of proficiency, this next section is a Charleston contest where you're going to see, I suppose, what was thought of as the pinnacle of Charleston achievement. Note, there's a lot of foxtrot in among the Charlestoning. So, if you haven't already seen my first episode on the Jazzy Foxtrot, I strongly recommend it. It will help a lot in building a sense of context, a sense of how folks in the 1920s actually danced, and where the Charleston can be incorporated into that dance. So now we come to the solo Charleston, which I have described as being principally a female activity. I'll start with Walter's rule of Charleston. When a boy dances at Charleston, it's for the benefit or to impress a particular girl. When a girl dances at Charleston, she doesn't need a boy and may be dancing it, very possibly dancing it for the benefit of the whole room, perhaps standing on a table at the time or otherwise making a spectacle of herself. And one of the key things about the solo Charleston in terms of a woman's place in the world is a woman dances a Charleston, a solo Charleston, without waiting for a man to ask her to dance. And that is a bit subversive. And of course, it leads to the moral collapse of the era. This is a wonderful painting that I think does a good job of expressing how a lot of people viewed the Charleston, jazz in general, and the Charleston in particular. I note that it's from 1926, the pinnacle, the zenith of the Charleston era, where we see Pallas Athena, or a statue of Pallas Athena, crumbled on the ground, while a naked woman is dancing to a black man dressed like a jazz musician, playing a saxophone. So yes, civilization is brought down by female sexuality and a black man with a saxophone. That was a little bit of subversion there. So we're coming to the end. The key points I'd like you to bring home from this are that the Charleston is something that can be inserted at will into any jazzy dancing situation. But it is not the only thing. You can be dancing your jazzy foxtrot. In fact, most of the time you should, to be authentic, would be dancing your jazzy foxtrot. But then it sounds kind of Charleston. So you can start doing some Charleston kicks while still in your foxtrot hold. Or you can break apart and you can do your Charleston steps. And again, don't worry if you're not doing them quite as well as Texas Guinan in that last clip. If you're just feeling the music, wiggling, kicking, that's fine. And, if you're proficient and you're really showing off, that's fine too. And also, though, of course, that anytime one or more people, especially women, can just get out alone or in groups and just dance, just do their Charleston. And if there's a table that will support your weight, by all means, get up on it. And Now for the finale, which is the ultimate Charleston jazz dance orgy. And that, of course, is from Ernst Lubitsch's This is Paris from 1926. I should make it clear that I do not put that forward as a typical 1920s dance party. I don't think anything quite like that ever happened. But that is the ultimate Charleston fantasy. It is the vision of the parties that people knew were going on, but they never got invited